Are you wondering what the difference between sciatica and a hamstring strain is? Then watch this video for 3 simple tips to determine which one you have, how to fix it, and how to get yourself back to activity as soon as possible. My name is Dr. Jeremy Andrews. I'm a doctor of chiropractic here at West Chiropractic in Surrey. And today I'm going to talk to you about exactly what sciatica is, exactly what causes it, how to know if you've got it, and then how to determine on whether or not it's a hamstring strain versus a sciatica. So what is sciatica? Sciatica is pain down both legs or one leg. Very often we see somebody who has pain down one leg, often characterized as a sharp shooting pain. It's very rare that we see people with pain down both legs. That's often a red flag for us that we need to look into further to determine exactly what's causing the sciatic pain and if we need to get them off to an A&E. The other red flag that we often see is when there's any sort of bowel or bladder discrepancy. So we just need to be careful with that when we're talking about sciatic pain. I'll get into more detail as we go through the whole process. So when we look at sciatica, we're often asking questions about where does the pain start and where does it end. So it usually runs from the top of the buttock, it goes down through the leg, very typically down to the back of the leg, all the way in the calf and down to the foot. The most common type of sciatica we see is literally from the base of the spine in the buttock and then down to around the thigh, about halfway down. Our clients will describe sciatica as a sharp, shooting, stabbing pain. Gets worse with movement, can get worse with prolonged sitting as well. They also tell us that they're struggling to find a comfy position to lie down in bed. This is very typical of a normal sciatica that we see here in the clinic. As we go through, sciatica can be extremely debilitating. We often see people here that have had sciatica for 3 weeks. They can't move, they can't sleep, they can't go to work. It's incredibly painful. They've gone to A&E, they've been given painkillers, very high dose painkillers, things like gabapentin, amitriptyline, diazepam, all to try and numb the pain, but just making their brain foggier as they go through. So ultimately not necessarily fixing the root cause of the problem, and they're getting worse and worse as they go through. So it's really important we try and identify exactly where the sciatic pain is coming from. So now we talked about exactly what sciatica is and what it can be characterized by. We need to understand exactly what can cause it. So there's a number of ways that sciatica can be caused. So the first one, the most common one we see, is from a disc. Now a disc is a jammed donut in the base of your spine. So let me just show you this. So you see here, this spine here. So this is the pelvis here. This is the lower back, neck is up here. So these are the bones, these are the discs. The discs are like jam donuts. They're soft, jelly inner, and they've got a tough outer ring. So very often where we've been sitting badly, or we've had poor posture, or even a trauma, like a skiing accident where you've fallen on your bum, this can cause the disc to prolapse or slip, as some people say. So essentially means the jam is coming out of the donut. This can then press on the nerves, the sciatic nerve coming out right on the base of the spine here. And that's the one that goes down through the buttock here, down the back of the leg, and then can cause the sciatic symptoms. So a disc prolapse, that's the number one thing we see, or even disc pressure. So not necessarily a full prolapse, but disc pressure. So where someone says to you, here's a jammed donut, if you put pressure on that donut, it's going to cause some inflammation around that area. It's going to create less room for the sciatic nerve to be able to breathe, and that's going to cause the symptoms to go down the leg. So we need to make sure we're identifying whether or not it's disc bulge or disc prolapse, where the jam has come completely out of that donut, and that's going to cause more of an issue with the sciatic nerve and also the prognosis with recovery. If there has been a full prolapse, it's going to take anywhere from 6 to 12 months to fully heal from that disc, which is obviously longer than just a bulge, but the idea is still the same. We're trying to get compression off of that disc to allow the healing to take place. But the other type of way that sciatica can take place is from a tight muscle. Very typically we talk about piriformis syndrome. So a true piriformis syndrome is where the piriformis muscle is contracting and it's putting pressure on the sciatic nerve going down the leg. This is very rare to get a true piriformis syndrome. There's usually something coming from the root of the spine that's actually causing the sciatic nerve to become compressed, and it's mimicking a piriformis syndrome is what we tend to see. Physiotherapists, they may disagree with me as they're working more on the actual piriformis to bring that into the best position. But ultimately, it still needs to be talked about, and we need to make sure that we're trying to take pressure off that piriformis, get it stretched out as where we can, just to relieve that sciatic nerve and help it to floss through that area. And the third way, chiropractors, we deal with bone, we deal with the spine. So if the spine is rotated, if there's postural issues, or there's a vertebra that's dislodged, it can press on the sciatic nerve right on the base of the spine, around that lower lumbar vertebra, L5, and going to S1, and then that can cause problems with getting traps and sciatic symptoms down the leg. So how do we determine between sciatica and a hamstring pain? Well, sciatica, as I said, it's down the legs. It doesn't have to be down the legs though. It can just be in the back or in the top of the buttock. Anything going into the top of the buttock would be characterized as a true sciatic pain. So other ways that we can talk about sciatica is pins and needles going down through the leg. We can talk about hot and cold type feeling. So I had a gentleman today who said, yeah, I got this hot patch that was going down through my leg and then it went cold. So any sort of temperature change that can be caused by sciatica. Any sort of foot drop, so you feel that your foot is dragging on the floor when you're walking, is more of a sinister issue and needs to be more of an emergency as well. Should be seeking help from A&E if that's happening. Coupled with what we call bilateral leg symptoms, so symptoms in both legs, that is a medical emergency. And also weakness in the legs. So very often people will feel that they're not very good at getting up from a chair or going up the stairs. That sort of weakness can be compounded by sciatic pain as well. So how would you tell the difference between sciatica and hamstring? Well, a hamstring is a muscle. It's a muscle that's located on the back of your leg and it comes right from the base of the pelvis. So if I show you this one here again, this is the sit bones here. We call them the ischial tuberosities. So your hamstrings come off the back of these. Obviously hamstrings on both sides. There are three hamstrings: semimembranosus, semitendinosus, and you have the biceps femoris. So these muscles, they're big, bulky muscles, and they're used to obviously flex the leg and really good for propulsion, and you're pushing off from that gait stance or any running type movements. So that's why many runners do suffer from hamstring injuries. Football players, rugby players, those sort of big, powerful movements where it's short, sharp bursts, that tends to be what happens. I myself pulled my hamstring 2-3 times now. It's always happened when playing football. It's always happened when playing in a cold environment as well. So I remember it being December, my brother's birthday. We were playing an 11-a-side game. COVID was on, and it was the only thing we could do for a birthday party. So we all rocked up. I was relatively fit at the time, but it was very cold. I hadn't done that sort of exercise in a while. I'd been doing sort of long, slow endurance work, and the short, sharp bursts ran, and I was just doing a lot of jogging, and then I went for a long sprint, and I just suddenly felt hamstring go. It was more of a pulled hamstring rather than a torn hamstring. So a pulled hamstring is better than a torn hamstring. Pull is where the muscle fibers, they interlink like this, and they've stretched too far from a certain force where the muscle can't essentially handle that force. It pulls the fibers like this. They don't all snap, but they're pulled higher than they want to be. It takes around 2 to 4 weeks to recover from that sort of hamstring pull. Whereas a tear is going to be where there could be old pull, where there's going to be scar tissue built up. A tear is where a lot more fibers have separated. It's going to cause more of a popping type sound, a real pull. The person, when it happens to them, is really going to pull up and think, oh, that's very, very tender. It often causes bruising, swelling afterwards. So that's more of a hamstring tear. It can be confused with a sciatica because it can go off like a gunshot apparently when it does happen. And it can be very, very tender, very difficult to walk on, and it can cause a sort of sharp stabbing pain. The difference between them is a sciatica, it will go all the way down the leg usually, whereas with the hamstring it's more pinpoints and it's actually targeted in that one area. So we need to make sure we can distinguish between the two. When you lift the leg up, so generally with a sciatica, if you do what we call a straight leg raise, lifting the leg all the way up is going to put a lot of tension on the sciatic nerve. It will increase the symptoms, so shooting, stabbing down the leg, pins and needles, numbness. With a hamstring pain, it will increase the stress on the hamstring, but it's not going to cause any pain to refer down the leg, generally speaking, but it will make that pain worse around the area where the hamstring is actually torn or pulled. The second thing is, remember, there's going to be some sort of bruising or swelling around the hamstring area, and when pressing into that area, it's going to be very tender. Generally, when we press on the nerve and there's a sciatic pain, you're not going to get too much third pain when you actually press on the leg, from the calf. It's not going to refer down to the leg because the entrapment's coming at the root and the base of the lower back there. So we need to make sure we're distinguishing between those two as well. One of the main ways that I fixed my hamstring strain was using a foam roller and also using a lacrosse ball. It helped the fibers that were just coming back in together to essentially take pressure off those areas, reduce the scar tissue build up, and help just lengthen everything and get it back nice and moving. So one of the main ways is just using a foam roller underneath your leg. I'm going to show you how to do this in a second as well. Also using a lacrosse ball, it's much more uncomfortable, but it provides a lot of relief to that area, just getting in the back position. Now that's how you get out of pain. How do we stay out of pain long term? So we really need to be thinking about how we can provide stability to your core, provide stability to the pelvis to ensure that those hamstrings are under a good length, so that when you do put them under pressure, or if you do lengthen them quickly, they're not going to keep pulling or tearing the whole time. It's all about trying to increase your core stability, and these exercises here I show you, including the bird dog and then the hip thrusters, are going to make sure that pelvis is nice and stable, you've got your glutes in a good position. So how do we treat sciatica? The main thing is to find out exactly what is putting pressure on the sciatic nerve and then get that pressure off. So if it is a disc prolapse, we've got to make sure that we're treating the disc prolapse. So one of the main things that we do here is we use chiropractic adjustments to take pressure off the vertebra to allow the disc to be nourished and move and get the pressure off the sciatic nerve. We we also use something called decompression therapy. So decompression therapy is a really effective non-surgical way to decompress the disc. So essentially the client will lie down for about 30 minutes on the decompression table. A belt goes either side of where they got the compression, and it very gently just tractions and holds, allows that disc to back in like this, or as much of it as we possibly can. If it's a very acute disc, it works quite well. The longer chronic ones, obviously, if you think about the jam being in the donut, the longer that the pressure's been on that donut, the less jam's going to be there to take it out. So that's another way as well. And then what things can you do at home? Or if you don't want to come and see a chiropractor, how can I fix this myself? I'm going to show you a couple of things over these next few video series that will help with that as well. One of the main things is using the McKenzie method in order to take pressure off of that area to allow the disc to essentially be nourished and flush that nerve. So we call it flossing the nerve in order to take pressure off that area to allow the nerve to then breathe better and move through the hole much easier as well, much more comfortable. Okay, so this is the McKenzie method. This is an amazing way to take pressure off the sciatic nerve. It's super simple. It can go more complex, as in the full McKenzie method, but it's going to keep it very basic to start. So what you want to do, the idea is to try and move away from where the pain is. So for example, this is my right side here. The pain is going down my right leg, so right sciatic pain. If I'm walking around like this, I'm leaning this way, ultimately we want to try and move towards that way. Okay, so this is going to take pressure off there and then come back and then moving away and then coming back. So if that's more comfortable, we'll do that one. So anything between 12 and 15 repetitions of that. If it's making anything worse, just stop, relax. You can give us a shout and we can help you through that. The other way would be from the front. So moving forwards like this. If that's creating less pain, we would try and do this movement. If we're going backwards like this, so that extension there, so I would always put my hands on the base of my spine. If that's making it worse, we're not going to do that movement. So we want to make sure we're just going bending forwards like this and then coming back 12 to 15 repetitions. Seems simple, but it's an amazing way to take a lot of pressure off the sciatic nerve. So just take that very gentle, find the movement that's going to move away from the pain. It's either a lateral movement or it's a movement like this. Just take it nice and slow, 12 to 15 repetitions. The cat-camel exercise is an amazing way to bend and extend the pelvis in order to allow the nerve to breathe much better through that area as well. It also opens and closes the vertebra, and that will allow the disc to be nourished in between those. You can watch this video here of me doing this now. Okay, so first one coming up, you've got the cat-camel here. This is a great exercise for improving that mobility through the vertebra, take the pressure off that lower disc and hopefully floss that sciatic nerve. Similar to flossing your teeth, helps to bring the nerve back and forwards and open up those holes in the base there. So watch this one, okay? So on all fours, I'll just do it on the bed like this for you. So ultimately you wanna be shoulders stacked over the wrists, pelvis in a good position like this, find that neutral position here, trying to suck your belly button in and just opening up like this. So rounding the back and then trying to tip the pelvis forwards. Just be careful on this one. If you've got a really severe back pain, that's going to be hard to do. So opening up like this, nice slow movement, and then just closing up like this as well. So a nice deep breath in, and then all the way out like this. This is a really good Pilates move. So sorry all the Pilates instructors out there, I'm probably butchering this. I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible. And just like this. You can repeat that anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. You can't really do it enough. Just keep on mobilizing that spine. Okay, so nice and gentle on this one. And then going forwards longer term, it's all about trying to increase that core stability, that pelvic floor stability, to make sure that the disc stays in a good position to take pressure off that sciatic nerve, or the muscles stay good to take pressure off the sciatic nerve. So the two main exercises that I use to increase core stability would be the dead bug exercise, which is super simple. You can do it at home. You just need a relatively hard, not too hard floor. I use it on the carpet, whereby you can then build stability through that core and just take as much pressure off that area. It's a lovely way to essentially get stronger. We hear our clients telling us, yeah, I don't feel like my back is going to go the whole time now. I feel like I can sleep much more comfortably in bed. I can turn over in bed much better results with that long term. So next exercise, dead bug. This is to improve the core stability in the base of your spine. Really important that you try and keep your tummy button sucked into the base of your spine the whole way through this exercise. So watch this one. The key to this is just going as slow as possible. So really just making sure that we're keeping head down like this. Don't want to bring your head up too much. Hands on your chest or your tummy, legs at 90 degrees. This is the most important part. So you see here, my back is arched. You want to make sure that back is flat, pushing down. See how my voice just goes a bit funny there because I'm trying to tense up my core and my abdomen, sucking my tummy in, and then one leg goes down like this. At this point, you're going to want to do this movement. Don't do that. Really try and keep it on, keep it on, keep it on. Here my voice is getting a bit strained because I'm not very good at it. And then you go down like this. 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, one more time. 3, 2, 1, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Even if you just do 2 of those each side, it's going to be way better than doing bicycle kicks. Just really slow, nice controlled movement will increase that core stability around the base of the spine. Just take that one nice and slow. Okay, so this one, hip thrusters. This is going to increase the glute stability. The glutes, when we sit for too long, particularly desk work, IT work, they're going to put a lot of pressure on our spine because they're not working properly. We need to make sure our glutes are nice and active, taking stress off the base of the spine, and ultimately just taking pressure off that sciatic nerve. Okay, so have a look at this one. So again, on your back, you can go straight from this one into the dead bug. So legs are going to be at 45 degrees like this. Again, head back, back flat. You're trying to relax the glutes here, and then you squeeze them, and then it's essentially just pushing up through here, and then coming back down like this. Keeping the knees shoulder width apart, and then coming back down like this. Anywhere between 5 and 8 for this. Again, remember to breathe. Remember to keep that back nice and relaxed through here, and then working like that. Okay, 5 to 8 repetitions will really help. And the other one we use is something called a plank. Now, a lot of you would have heard of the plank. There's a slight modification on this, and the reason for that is we want to increase that lower core stability in order to provide that going around to the back of the pelvis. So when you're doing your plank, and I'll show you this in the video in a second, but you really want to make sure you're tipping the heels backwards, and you're also squeezing the glutes. Squeezing those glutes drives that internal contraction of the lower core in order to make sure that disc and the sciatic nerve stay nice and stable in your back. Okay, so this is the plank here. So you want to make sure that you're on your elbows. The key thing about the plank here is to squeeze the bum and then rock back onto the heels like this. So if I'm all the way up here and I'm like this, that's not going to get any effect. You need to make sure I go roll back, squeeze the bum. It's going to drive the contraction of the glutes, help those lower abdominals stay in place. And you want to hold that for anything from 15 to 30 seconds. Try and repeat 3 times. Other things you can do to help yourself are don't sit. Sitting, not good for discs. The reason is it causes a lot of flexion in the spine. So I'll show you here again. What tends to happen is if you're sitting down like that, the spine's going to bend like that. It's going to put a lot of flexion through the spine. So you want to make sure that you're not sitting for too long, especially when it's really acute and flared up and it's causing a lot of sciatic pain down through the base of the spine. If you are going to sit, make sure you're sitting on a nice hard chair, like a dining room chair. Don't sit on the sofa. It's really going to compress the base of the spine. So you want to make sure you're not doing that. Always try and get some ice on there to reduce the inflammation. Try not to use heat. I know heat's going to feel really good in the bath, but you want to make sure you're not using too much heat just to avoid that exacerbating of the symptoms as we go through there. And when you're sleeping, always try and lie on the side. Lie on the side that's not affected. If you've got both legs, that's tricky. You're gonna have to go on your back. But if you've got it down the left leg, for example, try and lie on the right side, hands up like this, legs at 45 degrees, taking pressure off the base of the spine there as well. So thank you. I really hope this video has been really helpful for you. And if you are struggling with sciatica, please watch the rest of the videos in the series as well. There'll be some really useful information in there that you can help with. Follow our channel, keep providing you with really great content as we go through. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.